What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. We have a very exciting day today. We got the Ford back in the shop, and we're going to be doing a full fuel system on it from the tank forward. What that's going to involve is adding a new pump, which we have the Airdog 165. Yes, I know there is some controversy about these pumps. I am fully aware of the problems that they had in the earlier days on the Powerstrokes, but it does seem like they've really gotten it figured out with their new pump design for the Powerstrokes, and so I'm going to throw it on there. We're going to be doing a full brand new pump, removing the old pump from the frame rail. We have a fuel bowl delete, which we have here from CNC Fabrication. They are not sponsoring this video. I wish they were, because this was all very expensive stuff. But we got a fuel bowl delete here where we're going to bring in our fuel lines too, so we can get rid of that leaky fuel bowl up in the valve of the engine and clean it up a little bit in there. And then we have this awesome fuel sump for the bottom of the tank from GNR Diesel. There's the part number for you guys. But this has a full feed and return system. I ended up going with this route, which is a little more expensive than your average sump kit, because it has the full half-inch feed and return lines connecting at the bottom of the tank. And how that works is basically you just have this return line that brings the fuel back. We're going to connect the Airdog up to that, but obviously the fuel comes out, or is feeding from here out to the pump, and then as it's returning it goes back to the tank here and just kind of trickles out of that. I didn't want to use the factory feed and return lines on the tank just because they're underpowered or undersized, which has shown, maybe not proven, but a lot of people have issues with their pumps kind of being starved for fuel and burning up faster with the smaller factory return lines, fuel or sending and return line. So we're gonna get started. Don't want to do too much talking. Kind of want to make this an action-packed video and get the work going. So we're gonna start by probably doing the sump on the tank. We're gonna get going on that and take you along with it. All right, update for you guys. I got the truck up in the air and got the fuel tank right here. It appears that this is the lowest spot on the fuel tank, and I'm guessing it is directly below the factory pickup. So we're going to be cutting out that hole for the sump going right there, and to start we're going to drain the tank just with a small hole before we drill it all the way out and drop the tank to just make sure everything's clean inside. And I know some of you guys are probably going to comment, no, I do not hold up my fuel tank with ratchet straps. Those are just going to be for helping lower the tank once we undo the actual straps.
One eternity later.
Alright, we're back. Got a little farther along. You can see kind of tight, but we got the tank hanging down on the straps now. Those are, you got one tank strap here, which they're up on hinges. This one doesn't hinge all the way because of the leaf spring bolt, but there's an idea. Up on hinges and just swing so it drops out of the way. We got it hanging on the straps now. The filler lines for the tank, you're going to want to undo those. Those are a complete pain to try to get undone, so we ended up actually pulling the filler gate, or the filler nozzle, off the side of the bed, which is pretty easy. It's just a couple screws. But pulled it out of there, got the hilt drilled in the tank, and I think we should be good to get the tank down. Alright, I'm going to give you guys a little view from up on top of the tank. I'll block your light. You got your electrical connection and your fuel in and out of the tank of the sending unit. You just got to disconnect those and you'll be good. Alright, well, since we have the tank out of the truck, it was way too dirty on the outside for my liking. So we're going to be pressure washing it off a little bit and getting it clean. Yes, I know it's on the bottom of the truck, it doesn't really matter, but I have it out, might as well clean it up, make it nice while it's out, otherwise it'll never happen. And I like the peace of mind knowing that it's clean under the truck. Maybe that's just me, but we're going to clean it up. Alright, so in this clip I'm showing you the inside of the tank where you can see the filler neck and air breather. What I'll be doing is something called the harpoon mod, which is actually trimming that white pipe of the filler neck so it doesn't stick down as far into the tank. What this does is it allows you to actually fill the tank up faster and more because the pump's not shutting off at the bottom of that neck anymore. So here you can see that I have trimmed off a few inches of it, nothing crazy, but it should make a difference in filling. And then here's another view of how much I trimmed. Alright guys, so here's the factory sending unit for the tank. You got, when you're taking it out, be careful not to bend your kind of level gauge, your float, because then your readings will get all bad. For anybody that's just going into their tank to do the harpoon mod, which I showed earlier, you can also pay attention. A lot of times these pickup screens will break off, and if you're running out of fuel early at about a quarter tank, it's usually because this screen or pickup tube broke off. And then inside of here you actually have two little filters or pre-pump filters in there that can often get pretty plugged up and give you fuel issues that way. So it's not a bad idea to get in here, check those filters, and check this screen if you're having fuel issues. For me, I'm going to be removing this pickup screen and then putting it back into the tank because this will be in the way of the sump, that which you guys will be able to see, or what you saw in the last video. and I might show again, but we're going to be taking this off and putting it back together, and that should be just about everything we're going to be doing to the tank. Alright, so here's where the old tank was. These factory lines connected to the top of the tank, and then they run along the frame rail, up inside, long, up you got your oil filter, and then they connect right up there by your block heater cord, and that's where you can disconnect those, and those lines will go up to the top of the engine, and I think I will be removing those. If you look here, you can see your factory fuel pump, the Bosch pump. If you're ever replacing it or going to be removing it, it's right there. Alright, so we got the Airdog all mounted up to the frame. It's pretty simple. It's got these two steel mounting plates that just pinch the frame in between them, and that's what holds it up. From here, we're going to probably put the fuel tank back in and start fitting up lines as long as everything fits back in. It might be a little tight between the tank and the frame, but we're going to see. So yeah, we're going to put it all back together, start putting it back together and see how it fits. Alright, so as you can see, got that part of the fuel sump in. That is what goes inside the tank, that you actually clamp down onto, so it pinches the tank in between itself, in between the bottom of the sump and that bracket. You can see it's notched out. It's pretty simple. It's notched out. You just pop it in one side and then roll it up onto the other side of the tank. We're going to install the rest of the sump and kind of show you how that works. Alright, so we got the sump assembled. This is the billet sump from GNR Performance or GNR Diesel. Pretty simple setup. We got the return line here that just screws in hand tight into the sump. You got your O-ring which seals it, and then you got your two 1/2-inch AN fittings, which have these push lock fittings, so you can just push your fuel line hose onto it. It's pretty simple. We'll put it up in the truck and let you see. Alright guys, well that's it for the day. We're just about out of time. Made pretty good progress so far. We got tank back in, fuel sump's in, Airdog pump is mounted. So all we have left to do pretty much is run the wiring harness, run the fuel line up to the engine, and then put our fuel bowl delete in. So not too bad, should be one more day's work, and this thing should be back on the road. So today we are going to be finishing up, or hopefully finishing up, the fuel system on the truck. I guess if you're new to the channel, or this is the first video you're seeing, we are doing a full fuel system build on my 7.3 Powerstroke. That's going from the tank all the way up to the engine. So we're going to be trying to finish that up today, installing the fuel bowl delete and running the lines from the Airdog up to the engine and from the sump of the tank to the Airdog. We're going to take you along and hopefully it all goes smoothly. So we got it all wrapped up except for a few little touches of zip tying it up and bleeding out the system. But as you can see, we got the Airdog all plumbed up to the sump on the bottom of the tank. Once we get it off the lift, we're going to strap these lines up a little bit tighter. But the lines go up along the frame rail, come out over the frame rail, along the inside where the factory lines ran. Then we move up to the front of the truck where the factory pump still sits. We ended up not removing it. Then we got the wiring harness and the fuel lines that run up along the firewall to the top of the engine. Overall, pretty clean install. Pretty happy with it.
Alright, so here you can see in the engine bay of the truck, you can see the fuel delete block that we put in from CNC Fabrication, as well as the sensor and the fuel pressure sensor and the fuel feed line to that block. So what this block is it's basically a distribution block that goes in place of your fuel filter. You don't need it with the CNC fuel delete lines, but I think it adds a nice touch to the engine, and it actually cleans up the valley quite a bit, which makes it a lot nicer when you're working on anything else. So here you can see the T or cross of all the fuel lines. This fuel line right here goes from the front of the passenger head into the block, the distribution block, and the other one right next to it goes to the rear port on the back of that head. And then from that T you can see one comes over to the driver's side front of the head, and then the one coming straight out of the back of that goes to the back of the driver's side head. So with this you are providing steady fuel flow through all four ports of the head. So it's technically not a regulated return system, it is a 4-line feed system, providing good fuel pressure to all the ports. So here you can see we routed the sensor wire and fuel line over across the engine, kind of underneath the air filter and battery tray assembly, and from there we routed down to the firewall and down to the frame rail underneath the truck. We chose this route to kind of keep the fuel line away from all the hot components that we could, and keep it away from the exhaust manifold on its way down to the frame rail. So with this system you can run the 4-line feed kit with your stock fuel bowl assembly, and I did that for a number of weeks up until the time that I got the rest of the parts to completely finish the fuel system. That alone made a pretty big difference in the idle quality of the truck, just providing steady fuel flow to all the different all the different injectors front and back of the engine. I am much happier to have that fuel bowl assembly out of the truck, mainly because it's just a part of the truck that always tends to end up leaking. It's just one of those poorly designed parts that was on the engine, and it's nice to have it out of the engine. As I said, it really makes the engine bay cleaned up a lot more. Obviously it's nothing huge, but visually it makes a big difference, and as far as actually getting into the engine and working on things and being able to see what you're working on and being able to see leaks from any other parts of the engine, it makes a big difference being able to see into the valley of these engines, which anybody that owns a 7.3 knows that if there's going to be a fuel leak or an oil leak on the engine, it's most likely going to be up here in the valley. So having it all cleaned up and easier to work on is a really nice improvement in my eyes. The reason I went with Airdog on this, or one of the reasons I went with Airdog on this, is because they have a built-in fuel pressure regulator, and so the fuel pressure regulator in the stock trucks or in the stock fuel bowl is part of that fuel bowl, and so taking that out, you need something to regulate the pressure on your engine, and you need something with filtration. So Airdog knocks out both of those, and I'll probably make another video going more in depth on the Airdog pump itself and the reasons why I chose it, but in general the Airdog pump offers better filtration and it has the fuel pressure regulator built into it. And so with that I can just run the fuel lines feeding the pressure that I need, which I have set at just over 55-56 psi, and that runs up into this distribution block and to all 4 corners of the heads. I'm super happy with this install so far. Obviously I haven't put a ton of time on it yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing how it performs. So far it seems really nice, and I will keep you guys updated on the future of the system and how it continues to perform.
Thanks for sticking around this long if you made it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps YouTube share it more. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I'll be more than willing to answer what I can. And make sure to stick around for the next video. I'm excited to see this thing back on the road. Thanks for tagging along, and we'll catch you on the next one.